Or one is the communicating the bad news, that is serious illness communication, symptom management, advanced care planning, and caregiver assessment. So, communicating bad news. It is observed that many of physicians are not good at expressing a bad news. Then, in neurological cases also, it is observed that this communicating bad news is often inadequate and ineffective, leaving patients with a feeling of dissatisfaction and loneliness. It is observed in patients with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And there are certain tools to deliver bad news. These tools are named by the mnemonic. One is spikes. It is devised in oncology, but it can be appropriated for our needs also. The spike stands for setting up the interview, assessing the patient's perception, that is how much already the patient knows, obtaining the patient's invitation, that is how much the patient wants to know, giving knowledge, address emotions, and strategy and summary. This is the mnemonic spikes, one of the tools to deliver the bad news. The other tool is a simpler one. The mnemonic is breaks, background, repo, explore, announce, kindling, and summary. In addition, there is another tool to address the emotional part of the uh, problem of the patient. The mnemonic is nurse, that is name, understand, respect, support, and explore emotions. Among all these things, one of the most important thing is to know the context of the patients, that is the family background, social aspects, economic aspects, etc. And apart from that, there are certain websites available online. One of which is Vital Talk website. It is useful in learning advanced communication skills for serious illness and end of life care, and they blend honesty and empathy in delivering these services, and they also provide evidence-based training to empower the clinician and institution. However, this empathetic communication cannot be standardized. Each case is unique, and one has to develop one's own style of delivering the skills. And the diagnosis must be revealed in clear terms and with empathy. This serious illness communication can be addressed in different situations different. That is, in diseases like motor neuron disease, malignant brain tumors, this can be initiated at the time of diagnosis. The disease should be identified clearly and concisely after seeking permission from beginning the discussion. And then the patient and family members should be allowed to have some time to process the news and also some time to take second opinion if they think so. And the initial communication should end with proposal of a follow-up consultation and discuss prognosis for future situations. In other diseases like Parkinsonism and multiple sclerosis, this communication can be done at with event-related milestones. That is, at the time of increase in symptoms or at the time of deterioration of quality of life. Certain sensitive but important issues like sudden deaths, that is sudden unexpected deaths in epilepsy, this can be revealed during follow-up visits when once rapport is established. The situation is slightly different from acute brain injuries like stroke and trauma, where the patient cannot be expected to participate. Then we inform the family before and also check whether the patient has expressed any wishes regarding the goals of care and life supporting therapies. This crucial factor here is prognosticate to the family members, frankly and honestly. Then the second aspect is symptom management. And as neurologists, they were quite comfortable in treating the motor symptoms like rigidity, spasticity, involuntary movements, and so on. But the non-motor symptoms, they may be more important. It is observed that over the time, function limiting, caregiver burden, effective quality life are more than those caused by motor symptoms. It is also noted that in 50% of Parkinson's disease patients, depression is not treated. These non-motor symptoms, they seemingly appear very simple to us, but in reality, they are quite bothersome to the patient and to the caregiver. For example, the moderate to severe pain is observed in 40 to 50% of patients with Parkinson's disease and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, but hardly 20% are addressed at this problem. The other non-motor symptoms include constipation, anxiety, depression, dysphagia, sleep issues, muscle cramps, delirium, and sexual dysfunction. After the symptom management, the one of the important aspect is the advanced care planning. This refers to processing one's healthcare treatment in the framework of one's own values. This includes a discussion on living will, end of life care, and cardiopulmonary resuscitation directives. Then these are codified in a document called Living Will or Advanced Directive. This becomes operative if and when the patient is unable to communicate. Apart from the medical issues, non-medical issues such as and like spiritual care or appointment of a surrogate, like that is a medical power of attorney, can also be taken. The patient's impressions and directives about the list of life-prolonging treatments like CPR, mechanical ventilation, hemodialysis, surgery, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy should also be mentioned. If the patient opts for mechanical ventilation, clear criteria must be established regarding when to withdraw the ventilatory support. And again, 50% of the patients with Parkinson's disease want to discuss about the advanced care documents with the physicians quite early in the course of the disease. Less than 20% of dementia had advanced care documents. This shows the importance of this particular document in neurological disorders. However, in a study, it is observed, a prospective study, it is observed that among people with ALS, many patients did not utilize the advantage. Only 36% used hospice, 48% signed power of attorney, and 18% had DNR orders. In the intensive care unit, most of us do not understand the full impact of ICU care on someone who is past the point of being benefited from it. And withholding or withdrawal of life supporting treatment in DNR precedes most deaths of adults in Europe and North America. But the situation is different in India and Asia. In surveys, few surveys, it's observed that physicians in ICU in Asia reported that they often withheld but seldom withdrew life-sustaining treatments. The reason being families or surrogates request uncomfortable discussions about end-of-life care, legal risk. Regional and personal legal issues vary, and attitudes and preferences also varied widely across the countries and regions. So, the initiative to improve the end of life care must begin with a thorough understanding of all these matters. As we have seen, each case is unique by itself, and each case to be treated as per the need with empathy. And we have noted that palliative care can be delivered at any places that home home care delivery system, in the home care delivery system also. Most people when asked prefer to die at home. And there are guidelines on comfort care on cellular patient, and neurologists can take part in the advice in symptoms like disorientation and pain, and they make a contribution by giving a basic guidelines for care of these symptoms. And he may also have a role to play in opine on decision-making capacity for legal wills in cognitive assessment. And the last part of it is the caregiver assessment. This caregiver's quality of life has an impact on patient's quality of life. It is found that caregivers of motor neuron disease and multiple sclerosis, there is worsening of depression and increase in the burden as the disease progresses. They are often overwhelmed, isolated, burnt out with sleep problems. The caregiver support, which is also a part of our palliative care, inquires about the health, financial, and family obligations of the caregiver. The very act of asking the caregivers how they are doing is helpful, surprisingly. And what are the models of palliative care? One is an integrative model, that is incorporation of palliative care in the primary care service. Second is consultative palliative care specialty teams. Ideally, the model is a combination of two. In other words, the primary care by the clinicians, in this case by neurologists with expertise in disease process, and more complex and advanced cases can be referred to PC specialty teams. Then what are the indications where we refer the patients to specialist services? It is obviously when the situation is beyond the physician's ability, end of life care, feeding tube discussions, spiritual concerns, discussing psychological issues, power of attorney disputes, and home safety issues. And when we refer to the hospice, that is when there are some red flags are seen, consider to consider referral to hospice. These red flags are one is frequent hospital admissions with pneumonia, falls, urinary tract infections, unexplained weight loss, dysphagia, restricted activities of daily living, increased somnolence, and rapid decline in function. And it is there is a need for specifying some guidelines because quite we are quite uh, early in the stage of this subfield. Based on some framework of German national guidelines of palliative care, two guidelines are mentioned. One is a horizontal guideline which shows general principles of palliative care that are independent of underlying diagnosis. And disease-specific guidelines, in our case, say motor neuron disease, Parkinson's, other neurodegenerative disorders, malignant brain tumors, metastatic spinal cord compressions, and others. Ideally, these two should be complementary. And increased funding and research is needed in this palliative care. And there's a lot of scope for research and educational practice also. Neuropalliative care is recognized subspecialty of American Academy of Neurology now. Neurologists and primary care physicians may benefit from training in primary palliative skills by meetings, journals, and series. And residency program. The Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education requires neurology residency program to provide training in end of life and palliative care. This can be done by didactic lectures, clinical rotations, by joining an inpatient palliative care consult team and seeing a mixed diagnosis in oncology, cardiology, pulmonology, and neurology. And fellowship program generally lasts for 1 year, and hospice and palliative medicine subspecialty examination is offered by American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology. And India also important development have taken recently. In March 2018, Supreme Court of India has passed a judgment with major and far-reaching consequences for medical practice and end-of-care life. Until now, there is no constitutionally mandated control for anybody for the last days of his life. This Supreme Court judgment lays out a procedure for living will and advanced medical directive, and also determination of medical utility. Autonomy and privacy are now constitutional rights. By autonomy refers to the individual rights to choose, refuse, or otherwise regulate the medical treatment. Again, in our country, three national medical associations have taken initiative. The critical care specialist represent, represented by Indian Society of Critical Medicine, palliative physicians represented by Indian Association of Palliative Care, neurologists represented by Indian Academy of Neurology came together to form End of Care Life in India Task Force LCIT. The tasks that have been put forward ahead are one, first to create a legal framework for end of life care decision making by individuals and associations. This is important because though we know the principles of care, we are not very much um, comfortable or knowledgeable. Not, we don't have much knowledge about the legal aspects of it. Second is the raising public awareness. And third task is creating in healthcare system for providing adequate end of life care and palliative care services. And there is increasing awareness in palliative care neurology worldwide also. In 2014, American Stroke Association used a scientific issued a scientific statement on palliative and end-of-life care in stroke for healthcare professionals. It emphasizes the need for primary care, integrated and coordinated into stroke service that we have already observed. So nicely it is mentioned stroke by stroke by the author. And we know if you remember in our textbooks, it's written that students learn neurology stroke by stroke. As each stroke has got a different anatomical territory, and after studying many number of strokes, we know more about anatomy and neurology also. Just like we students learn neurology stroke by stroke, integration also by stroke by stroke. And the importance of this care has been emphasized in two recent conferences. One is Fourth Congress of European Academy of Neurology in Lisbon. This the importance of all neurologists to provide palliative care approach and collaborate with the specialists. That is which I have already observed. And I was fortunate to attend this conference in Lisbon, where a symposium on palliative care was included. And also in the 15th International Congress on Neuromuscular Diseases, the role of palliative care is emphasized. In India also, there are certain attempts towards the palliative care in neurology. The Pallium India is a national registered charitable trust which is aimed at providing quality palliative care and effective pain relief for patients in India. Dr. Rajgopalan was the founder and chairman, and it conducted workshops and conferences in palliative care in neurology in Bangalore and Kochi. In those they foresee a silent revolution in neurology of India. And palliative care and neurology, there's a time for paradigm shift. That is a fundamental change in approach and underlying assumptions. So before concluding with this brief talk, I express my gratitude to my parents, my appreciation to my better half for her support and encouragement. I thank my friends for their help, and finally I thank my patients for everything. Thanks for the kind attention.
Thank you, sir. Hello. Okay. Thank you, sir,
Sir,
for
audible.
selecting an innovative topic and giving the presidential oration. Usually, neuroscientists, both neurosurgeons and neurologists, are fond of giving the lectures on treating stroke, epilepsy, or aneurysm clipping and all. But ultimately, what we have to is the palliative care. So the purpose of our treatment is holistic approach, and our job is to make the patient independent and or fit into the job. So you have taken very innovative topic and highlighted the speeches. And to all neuroscientists, so we have shifted the presidential oration to before inauguration so that much attention will be given to the most prestigious event of the our conference. Thank you. Thank you for the organizers.
Thank you very much, sir, the President, sir, for a lucid lecture and the nice mnemonic nurse, the palliative principles and all. Sir, because of these pandemic times, we could not bestow the medal physically to you, sir. We regret for the same. All the medals and all are very much ready, and we will be handing over to you shortly, sir, to all the orators and the speakers. And or in the next feasible session, whenever the circumstances are convenient, the medals will be given, sir, handed over physically. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you once again. Over to organizers.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Sashki Rao, sir, Dr. Satyavar Prasad, sir, and Dr. Vijay Sekhar, sir. And now I conclude the session and I invite you all for the inaugural function in the hall 3.
Same, eh, no?
I invited the organizing chairman, Dr. R.V. Ravi, sir, to chair the session.
money. Meeting all the continue. Meeting also.
Now I request the President of APNSA, Dr. Seshagiri Garu, to join the inaugural function. Sir, please.
Okay, am I visible and audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Audible, sir. Audible.
Yes, sir. Audible.
Visibility?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. We are seen also.
Yes, sir.
Now I request our Chief Guest, Dr. Samsiva Reddy Garu, to join the inaugural function, please. Dr. Samsiva Reddy Garu.
Thank you. I've joined. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request the Secretary of the APNSA, Dr. Vijay Sekhar, to please join the function.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. I am very much here. Thank you for the invitation. Sir, good afternoon, sir. Our Chief Guest, Dr. Samsiva Reddy Garu, APMC Chairman. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you all.
Sir, Sam Siva Reddy
Now I
garu.
request Dr. Balbhadra Venkatraj Garu, our Organizing Secretary, to join the function and take over the proceedings. So thank you.
Dr. Ravi, can you please invite Dr. Srinivas Raj Garu?
Lighting up the lamp.
1 minute, Raj Garu. APMC observer, Dr. Srinivas Raj Garu. Is he here by any chance?
Dr. Sai Nilma.
We have sent a link.
Dr. Srinivas, sir.
Dr. Srinivas Raj Garu. He also was sent a link. He said he will be joining.
Dr. Shashikir Rao garu, please unmute.
Garu, now you can hand over to President to preside over the inaugural function.
Not audible, Dr. Raju.
Sir, you are audible, sir. President,
Ah.
sir. I think you can
I can start.
proceed, sir.
Okay.
You can start,
You
sir.
can
Okay.
start preside the function, sir.
Okay. Chief guest of the inaugural function, Chairman of Andhra Pradesh Medical Council, Dr. B. Sambashiva Reddy Garu, Organizing Chairman of AP Neurocon 2020, Dr. R.V. Ravi, Organizing Secretary of AP Neurocon, Dr. B. Venkatraju, Secretary, Andhra Pradesh Neuroscientist Association, Dr. M. V. Vijay Shekhar, Andhra Pradesh Medical Council Observer, Dr. C. H. Srinivas Raj Garu, respected teachers, distinguished speakers invited for the conference, my senior professional colleagues, and dear friends. It gives me immense pleasure to invite you once again to this annual conference of Andhra Pradesh Neuroscientist Association today. This year, we are conducting a virtual conference in view of the existing pandemic. Andhra Pradesh Neuroscientist Association has been active in academic and community activities ever since inception. This year, in spite of limitations and restrictions, our association continued its activities at various places in the state. Organizing committee of this conference, under the guidance of Dr. Ravi, Dr. Venkatraju, and Dr. Perumallu, made elaborate arrangements for this virtual meet in spite of a short notice. I am sure that the academic feast in these 2 days will enrich our knowledge. Now I request Dr. Vijay Shekhar, Secretary of the APNSA, to present the Secretary's report. Not audible.
Good afternoon. I welcome all the dignitaries, our colleague neurosurgeon, President, the Chairman of AP Medical Council, Dr. Sambashiva Reddy Garu, President of the AP Neuroscientist Association, Dr. Shashikir Garu, the local organizing committee Chairman and Secretary, Dr. Ravi, and Dr. Balabhadra Raj Garu, Dr. Sachivar Prasad Garu, the President-elect, and Dr. Vengamma Madam from SWIMS, all my senior teachers, colleagues, and friends. A very warm welcome to you all. As just now reiterated by our President, Dr. Shashikir Garu, ours is one of the established and strongest association in the neurosciences in the country. It was started way back in 1994, and 20 years now onwards, we have been conducting regularly every year without any interruption these annual meets. This year, in spite of the pandemic, we were actually delayed by more than 6 months, but with the strong determination of the executive and an equally enthusiastic team from Rajamahendravaram Neuro Club, especially Dr. Balbhadra Venkatraju, Dr. Ravi, Perumallu, Varaprasad, and all the team of Rajamandri. In fact, friends, we have met in the month of just March, April in Rajamandri. We have planned for a regular physical meet. Almost every arrangements have been taken care, but because of this unforeseen pandemic, it was it was suspended for more than 6 to 8 months. Friends, just to recollect, our association was started with 4 stalwarts: Dr. B. Rammurthy Garu, Dr. S. Balaparameswar Rao, Dr. Dayanand Rao, and just now as shown by our president's oration, Dr. Veer Raghav Reddy Garu. It is very unfortunate. With the time we lost 3 giants among these, and still our Dr. Veer Raghav Reddy Garu is continuing to be our honorary member. From that stage in 1994, the association has grown to the present strength of 569 neuroscientists in the state. And friends, I am very happy to share that the academic activities are being conducted very regularly, which includes several orations, symposiums, award papers, quizzes for the postgraduates, and free papers, which are now mandatory as a part of the PG curriculum. And this also simultaneously builds up the confidence and to showcase their work done in their respective departments on a platform which will be shared and being observed nationally by several neuroscientists. Friends, apart from these, as a measure of our concern to the society, several public awareness programs have been designed and we started implementing them. For these, we have started one theme every year. If you recollect, sirs and madams, last year we have conducted a golden hour and we have performed a beach walk for the public awareness, and it was conducted in the Visakhapatnam. The before year, when it was conducted in Kakinada and several other places, each year we have been taking one theme. And this year the theme is the brain tumors. Unfortunately, we couldn't do any activity in the public because of these conditions. But this is a public awareness concern. And also with the friends of our colleagues in the neurology and other departments, we have been conducting regularly the epilepsy awareness program, the stroke prevention programs. We are taking these through various platforms to help the society. Friends, apart from this, we are trying to bring out some innovative ideas for involving the youngsters and to make it more attractive. We have planned e-journal. It was in the formative stage, and I request enthusiastic members from our society to come forward to regularly contribute to this e-journal. And also, we have started collecting all these lectures which are being delivered during the state conferences. These can be brought out in the form of a souvenir, which we have already started a couple of years ago. And I wish this should be a regular feature and during the next tenure of our next executive. And it should be on par with the progress in neurosciences, just like we are having at the national level. So these are some of the ideas for the association. And with this brief introduction, I thank all the organizers, especially the Rajamandri people, for making this happen in a short time. And also I thank Dr. Seshagiri Garu, my president for the last year, who has been supporting our telephone and instructing for the conduct of the conference. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Now I request Dr. C.H. Srinivas Raj Garu, Observer, AP Medical Council, to say a few words, address the gathering, address the distinguished audience. Am I audible, Dr. Shekhar?
You are audible, sir. I am just searching for that Srinivas Raj Garu.
I request Dr. Srinivas Raj Garu.
Sir, I think he has not joined, sir, finding some difficulty.
You can, Shekhar, you can go ahead with presidential chair. Chief guest of the inauguration.
Sir, I think you can continue, sir, President, sir. Sir, President, sir, I think you can continue, sir. That Srinivas Raj is finding some difficulty, it
Okay.
seems.
Am I audible? Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Now I request Dr. B. Sambashiva Reddy Garu, Chairman, Andhra Pradesh Medical Council, to address the distinguished audience.
Good afternoon to everyone. And first, let me thank the organizers for inviting me to this great occasion. And especially Dr. R.V. Ravi Garu, Chairman, Organizing Committee, and Venkatraju Garu, who is Organizing Secretary, and the APNSA President Seshagiri Rao Garu, and Secretary Vijay Shekhar Garu, and President-elect Satyavara Prasad Garu, and my dear teachers and colleague neurosurgeons and students. A very, very good afternoon to all. And I should appreciate the enthusiasm with which the neurosurgeons are participating, neuroscientists rather, are participating in this virtual conference. And this tells us that, all these setbacks which have come through the pandemic can be overcome by the small deviations, by deviating a little and then carrying on with our routine, which will build the confidence among the public as well as the medical fraternity as well. So I think greatly appreciate the organizers for organizing this APNSA, although it's little late virtually. And so let me, fundamentally what this pandemic has taught to individuals, as to the medical profession, as well as to the society. I think we have learned quite a bit once we had this pandemic, which we never would have realized all these without this pandemic. That's like a blessing in disguise, wherein we have learned so much from the pandemic. So the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us a few basic laws of our existence on this planet. Okay, despite all the scientific advances in the modern medicine, we humans are lesser mortals and are bound by the inevitable aging and death. This was taught to us by COVID pandemic. And still Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest and natural selection still holds good, which will govern our survival. So it's also important to know that the most expert doctors and the costliest of the medicines cannot challenge these laws. Okay, so that's what the COVID pandemic has taught us. And we've also learned that money can only buy healthcare, but not health. That's also we've learned by this pandemic. So, and to the medical profession, we should learn that, see, for the past 2 to 3 decades, the medical profession has lost its confidence among the public. That's to certain extent our own making, and to certain extent the over expectations of the society on the medical profession. So we have seen a lot of writing on the hospitals and beating, the thrashing of doctors and all that, which was very, very unfortunate. So the pandemic has given us a golden opportunity to, to sort that out and then bring back the confidence of the public to the medical profession. Partly we were successful, and most of our medical professionals have done a wonderful, brilliant job during the pandemic period, trying to help those those who had this COVID disease. But I think we have not fully utilized in building back that confidence among the public over the medical profession. So I think we should continue to build that confidence back. I think that's very, very essential for the future survival of the medical profession. So, and pandemic also has brought some changes to the way we practice as well. So the medical practice has adopted telemedicine in a greater way, and a lot of consultations happened over telephone, over the video conferencing, and most of the medicines, refill medicines, were prescribed online. And to that extent, I think central government also made a lot of changes to the telemedicine practice as well, which helped quite a bit doctors as well as the patients. And even we could monitor patients remotely, wherein we gave away pulse oximeters and certain of the investigations, and then we could monitor the patients remotely. And so I think there are definitely some changes which happened the way we practice. And once the patients get the confidence over the telemedicine practices or video conferencing consultations, definitely some of the practice is going to change in those lines. I think all the doctors should be prepared, to digitize themselves and then get involved in those sorts of services. That's very, very important. And see, a medical profession, again, in this pandemic period, most of us have learned that, the Ministry of Ayush has given a notification saying that the doctors of the Ayurvedic medicine can learn some surgeries, and then they can practice surgeries. I think when the modern medicine or allopathic medicine is struggling with a lot of training, and then hardships of the doctors and all that, and we desist all the doctors who doesn't have a valid degree or a recognized degrees to practice some of the subspecialties and specialities, and they are trying to train them, and then asking them to do some surgeries. I think, in unequivocal terms, we condemned that. I represented to National Medical Council, and then I've strongly denounced the mixopathy practice, which they are going to come up with, and all of us, I think, should resist that move. So again, AP Medical Council was in forefront to promote online CMEs wherein we are giving a good number of credit hours to online CMEs. And whatever difficulties in organizing these, I think we are happy to rectify and then sort those things out. Coming to the neurosurgery specialty itself, I think pandemic again has left something on neurosurgery as well, like on neurology. So most of the follow-up consultations can happen, in neurology as well as in neurosurgery online, and that trend might continue to grow as well. And the artificial intelligence is going to have some place, especially in certain diseases, like certain subspecialties of neurosciences, like neuroradiology and a part of and neurosurgery as well. And robotics also might be playing a greater role with the as the precision improves in the robotics. I think that's going to happen in next 5-10 years itself. So all these changes are going to happen in neurosciences as well. So again, as at an individual level, a good neuroscientist is one who practices a preferential conservative approach and a selective aggressive approach. You should not get panicked, or you should not make the patient panic about the physiological process or degenerative processes. And most of the times, the patients are getting panicky over the aging process or a degenerative process. And even some of the doctors are also they themselves are getting panic, and that that anxiety is being passed on to the patients. I think we should be very careful in that line. So we should avoid that undue panic over the degenerative processes and then jump on to suggest some treatments for these degenerative processes. We should be very selective in dealing with those conditions. And at last, as an executive vice chairman for Dr. YSR Arogyasri Healthcare Trust, I can assure all the neurosurgeons and neurophysicians who are treating Arogyasri patients and in neurology that I'm going to very soon review the packages of neurosurgery and neurology, and then wherever necessary, definitely we will review the packages as well. And at the end, I once again congratulate the organizers for having me for this wonderful occasion, and organizing a great neuroscientist conference. Thank you once again. Thank you all.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. Dr. Samsa Reddy garu. Actually, even without asking, you yourself have conveyed the importance of the present pandemic scenario. Actually, that is what exactly we have in the post-lunch session, sir. We have the prestigious Bal-Parmeshwara Symposium, in which the post-pandemic effects of on the neurological diseases by Dr. Buchra, sir, and also the post-pandemic surgical aspects by a doctor from Professor of AIMS Neurosurgery. And all these things we are actually, you are covered in your speech, sir. And one more thing, sir, even one of the agenda in our evening general body, and also which was discussed last year also regarding the Arogyasri package, sir. Adakunda Ammana Pedantar, you have grasped and you have the Parka presentation you have understood. And it is very apt to have learned people who with knowledge of what is happening. So you know all the practical difficulties. Thank you for the assurance, sir. Thank you very much for your nice message.
Thank you. Thank you.
No?
Continue.
Will I continue, Dr. Vijay Shekhar?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for your observations of the effect of the pandemic on healthcare system, and also for your expert advice for the healthcare professionals Also, we also appreciate your vision about the future of neurosciences in Andhra Pradesh, and we are very much thankful for all the information and advice you have given to us. Thank you very much, sir. Now, I request Dr. B. Venkatraju, Organizing Secretary of Neurocon, to propose vote of thanks.
I thank Dr. Sashigir Rao Garu, APNSS President, and Dr. Vijay Shekhar Garu, APNSS Secretary, for giving Rajahmundry Neuroscience Association the for conducting the conference AP Neurocon 2020. Actually, Dr. Vijay Shekhar and we plan to have it in the July, but because of COVID, we could not do it. But it became a blessing in disguise that we could have international speakers in this conference. And we thought initially by virtual conference, the registration will be very low. We are very, very happy to announce that it is almost reaching 400 delegates. It's an excellent delegates, which we never thought we'll reach it. I sincerely thank Dr. Samsiva Reddy Garu for giving the message to the conference. It's an excellent message, and as Shashigir Rao and Dr. Vijay Shekhar told, he has beautiful vision, and actually our hospital is also doing neurology, but the packages were very low. It is stroke package is 20,000 only, and this package is there from almost 13 years. No rise in that package. It is almost difficult to manage cases with that package. I sincerely thank you, sir, for trying to enhance the packages, sir. I thank all the delegates for registering and also the speakers, because of whom only the conference could be a great success. I thank you all.
Dr. Vijay Shekhar, shall I continue? Am I audible?
Sir, I think this concludes the inaugural
Yes.
function, sir.
I'll conclude by saying I thank Dr. Samu Reddy Garu once again for accepting our invitation and gracing the occasion. Now we move on to the academic sessions.
We move on to